Is a Vaseline coated plant pot just too slippery for slugs and snails to climb over? As the next 6 hours of time lapse footage rolls on by, you're going to find out if it can really keep them under control. I've already done a video which seems to show that slugs and snails have no issues touching Vaseline. It doesn't seem to be a repellent as such. But can it prevent slugs gripping onto things, meaning that they can't climb up steep-sided pots? That's what you're going to see in this video, where I've condensed 6 hours of footage into a few minutes. So for the experiment, I get 4 pots and I cover 2 of them in Vaseline and leave the other 2 untreated as my comparison or control. Then I place some bait on top to try and get them to climb up the pots. I set the clock to 12 o'clock and start recording, with the 2 Vaseline covered pots on the right hand side next to the clock. The first slug approaches the Vaseline covered pot after about an hour. When it reaches the Vaseline, it changes direction and doesn't cross, a promising start. After not seeing much action in the first part of the video, I added more slugs and snails to the experiment. Soon 3 approached the pot and 2 of those actually ended up turning back. Then another slug approached the pot on the far right and crossed the Vaseline with no trouble at all. One slug even made a second attempt, got to the Vaseline layer and turned back again. Meanwhile, a larger slug on the left crossed it easily. This is why I consider Vaseline a secondary barrier, not something to use as your first line of defense. It can help, but it shouldn't be relied on by itself. It's best used alongside a more effective barrier, like a slug stand, a slug fence, or a slug collar. I've recently put together a complete guide on slug prevention. It covers what I believe are the most effective barriers and repellents, and it's based on scientific research and also my own experiments over the past 3 or so years. It breaks things down into primary barriers, secondary barriers, and methods that appear to have no effect at all. You can sign up to get my free guide on the homepage of my website, stopslugs.com, and I plan to keep it regularly updated with the best slug and snail knowledge. You can also learn a lot from my YouTube channel, where I share many of my other experiments. As you can see, some slugs easily cross the Vaseline barrier, while others seem hesitant and end up turning back. So how would you use Vaseline to protect your potted plants? Like I said, only in combination with another method. It's definitely not a quick fix, especially if you're dealing with a big slug or snail problem. I go into this in much more detail in my guide, but in short, Vaseline might work better on overhanging surfaces of primary barriers, like slug fences, slug collars, or a slug stand, or when paired with less effective secondary barriers like copper tape. But I can't emphasize this enough. Primary barriers are far superior to any secondary ones. They're in a whole different league, and that's exactly why I've categorized them separately. I'd rather use one solid primary barrier than 2 or 3 weaker ones. I hope you found this useful. Please support my work by checking out my other videos, visiting stopslugs.com, and giving this video a like, a share, and subscribe. Cheers.